Hello and welcome back to Fallonits. It is just me today, and I need to talk about something that has ruined more of my nights than anything else. Something that has stolen my sleep, my focus, and my peace more times than I can count. The spiral. You know the spiral. It starts with something small. A text message that says we need to talk. An email from your boss that just says let's connect tomorrow. A comment from a friend that felt slightly off. And then your brain takes over. It starts writing a movie, a horror movie, where you are the main character and everything goes wrong. They're going to fire you. They're going to break up with you. They're going to laugh at you. Everyone secretly hates you. You're going to end up alone and broke and forgotten. And the worst part? None of it is real. None of it has happened. But your brain does not care. Your brain is in full catastrophe mode. And you cannot sleep. You cannot eat. You cannot focus on anything except the disaster movie playing on loop in your head. That is a spiral, and it is exhausting. I know this because I am a professional overthinker. Certified. I once spent 4 hours lying in bed at 2 a.m. trying to figure out why a coworker said, "Have a good day," in a slightly flat tone. For hours. They probably just had allergies. But my brain had already decided they hated me, were plotting against me, and were going to get me fired. That is not rational. That is not helpful. That is a spiral. And it was ruining my life until I learned a trick. A simple trick from cognitive behavioral therapy. CBT, not the other CBT. The therapy one. Get your mind out of the gutter. Cognitive behavioral therapy is the most researched, most effective form of therapy for overthinking, anxiety, and spiraling. And the good news is that you do not need a therapist to use its core tools. You can learn them right now, for free, on a YouTube video from a guy who once spiraled about a co-worker's tone of voice. So let me teach you the 3-step CBT trick that stopped my spiraling. And I promise, if you practice it, it will stop yours too. But first, let me explain what is actually happening in your brain when you spiral, because understanding the mechanics helps you stop the process. When you get a trigger, something ambiguous or slightly negative, your amygdala activates. That is the fear center of your brain. It is ancient. It is fast. It is designed to keep you safe from tigers. The problem is that it cannot tell the difference between a tiger and a text message. So it sounds the alarm. Then your prefrontal cortex, the thinking part of your brain, tries to make sense of the alarm. But because the alarm is loud and scary, your prefrontal cortex starts looking for threats. And once you start looking for threats, you will find them everywhere. Your brain is a pattern matching machine. If you tell it to find evidence that everyone hates you, it will find it. That slightly flat tone. That pause before they laughed. That time they did not say goodbye. Your brain will connect dots that do not exist. And then you are spiraling. The good news is that you can interrupt this process. You can hit pause. You can redirect your brain. That is what CBT does. And that is what I'm going to teach you today. Here is the 3-step trick. I call it the stop, check, swap method. Step 1. Stop the spiral before it gains momentum. Step 2. Check the evidence like a detective. Step 3. Swap the thought for a more realistic one. That is it. 3 steps. Simple. But simple is not the same as easy. It takes practice. Your brain will fight you, but if you stick with it, it will change your life. Let me break each step down in detail. Step 1. Stop the spiral. This is the hardest step because it requires you to notice that you are spiraling in the first place. When you are deep in a spiral, it feels like reality. It does not feel like a thought. It feels like the truth. So the first skill is awareness. You need to catch yourself. Here is how. Create a trigger phrase. Something you say to yourself when you notice the spiral starting. Mine is, "Oh, look, my brain is doing that thing again." That is it. No judgment. No anger. Just observation. "Oh, look, my brain is doing that thing again." Say it with a little humor, if you can, because humor breaks the spell. You can also use a physical anchor. Snap a rubber band on your wrist. Clap your hands. Take a deep breath. The point is to interrupt the automatic thought loop, just for a second, just long enough to move to step 2. A trick I love is the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding method. It pulls you out of your head and into the present. Name 5 things you can see, 4 things you can feel, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. By the time you finish, you are no longer in the disaster movie. You are in the real world. And in the real world, nothing bad is happening right now. You are just sitting in a room, breathing, safe. That is step 1. Stop the momentum. Do not let the spiral spin faster. Hit pause, step 2. Check the evidence. Now that you have paused, you can think like a detective, not like a horror movie writer. Get out a piece of paper or your phone notes. Draw a line down the middle. On the left side, write evidence for my scary thought. On the right side, write evidence against my scary thought. Then list the facts. Not feelings. Facts. What actually happened. Not what your brain imagines might happen. Here is an example from my own life. I got an email from my boss that said, "Let's chat tomorrow." No other information. My brain immediately said, "I am getting fired." So I did the evidence check. Evidence for being fired. Well, I had made a small mistake last week. That is it. That was the only evidence. Evidence against being fired. My boss has never mentioned any major issues. My performance reviews have been positive. Other people have gotten, "Let's chat," emails for normal things like new projects. I have no actual proof that I am being fired. The company is not laying people off. I am overthinking. That is not evidence. That is anxiety. When I looked at the 2 columns, it was obvious. 1 piece of weak evidence against many pieces of strong evidence. The thought was not rational. It was a spiral. Do this exercise every time you spiral. Write it down. Seeing it on paper breaks the illusion. Your brain cannot argue with a list. Here's another example. A friend texts, "We need to talk." Your brain says, "They hate me. They are ending the friendship." Evidence 4. They have seemed a little distant lately. Maybe. Evidence against. They texted me. People who hate you do not text you. They have never ended a friendship before. They use the word "we," which is inclusive. If they hated me, they would say, "I need to talk to you," not "we." Also, it could be about something completely unrelated. Their life, their job, their family. Most things are not about you. I know that is hard to hear, but it is true. Most of what people do has nothing to do with you. So stop making everything about you. That is not humility. That is narcissism in reverse. You are not the center of everyone else's universe. You are the center of your own. And that is fine. But remember, your friend's text is probably about them, not you. So check the evidence. You'll almost always find that the evidence for your scary thought is weak, and the evidence against it is strong. That is the spiral breaking. Step 3. Swap the thought. Now you have paused. You have checked the evidence. You have seen that your scary thought is not supported by facts. But your brain will still want to believe it, because the spiral is a habit. So you need to swap the scary thought for a more realistic one, not a positive thought. Do not force yourself to say everything is amazing. That is toxic positivity. That is lying. You need a realistic thought. A thought that fits the evidence. A thought that is probably true. Here's the formula. Write down your original scary thought. Then write down the opposite extreme, the Pollyanna version. Then find the middle, the realistic version. For example, scary thought. My boss is going to fire me tomorrow. Opposite extreme. My boss is going to give me a raise and a promotion. Realistic middle. My boss probably wants to talk about something routine. Maybe a new project. Maybe a small correction. It is unlikely to be firing because there is no evidence for that. I will find out tomorrow, and worrying will not change the outcome. That realistic thought is not exciting. It is not comforting, but it is true, and truth is more calming than lies. Even scary lies feel more true than comforting lies. So aim for truth, not happiness. Truth. Another example. Scary thought. My friend hates me and is ending the friendship. Opposite extreme. My friend loves me more than anyone and is planning a surprise party. Realistic middle. My friend probably wants to talk about something on their mind. It might be about me. It might not. Either way, the friendship is not ending over one conversation. Friends fight. Friends have hard talks. That is normal. I will find out when we talk. Until then, I will assume it is something neutral. That realistic thought lowers your heart rate. It lets you breathe. It stops the spiral. Practice swapping thoughts. Every time you catch a spiral, write down the realistic middle. Over time, your brain will start going to realistic middle automatically. You are rewiring your neural pathways. That is not woo-woo. That is neuroscience. Every time you choose a realistic thought, you strengthen that pathway. Every time you choose a spiral, you strengthen that pathway. You are building a road in your brain. Choose which road you want to drive on. Let me give you more examples of common spirals and realistic swaps, because I know your brain is creative and will find new ways to torture you. Spiral. I made a mistake at work. Everyone thinks I am incompetent. I will never be trusted again. Realistic swap. I made a mistake. Humans make mistakes. I will fix it. I will learn from it. Most people forget about it in a week. One mistake does not erase years of good work. Spiral. My partner did not text me back for 3 hours. They are losing interest. They are cheating on me. Realistic swap. They are probably busy, or their phone died, or they are sleeping, or they saw the text and forgot to reply. I have done that 100 times. It means nothing. I will wait and see. If it becomes a pattern, I will ask about it calmly. Spiral. I am so behind in life. Everyone my age is ahead of me. I will never catch up. Realistic swap. I am comparing my behind the scenes to their highlight reel. I do not know their struggles. I am on my own path. My path is not faster or slower. It is just mine. I will focus on my own progress, not someone else's. Spiral. I said something awkward in a conversation. Everyone thinks I am weird. They will talk about me later. Realistic swap. People are mostly thinking about themselves. They probably did not even notice. And if they did, they will forget in 5 minutes. I am not that important to their internal monologue. That is freeing, not insulting. Spiral. What if I fail at this thing I am about to try? What if I embarrass myself? What if I waste everyone's time? Realistic swap. I might fail. That is possible. And if I fail, I will learn something. Most successful people fail many times. Failure is not the end. It is data. And no one is watching as closely as I think they are. So I will try anyway. Now let me teach you some advanced techniques for when the spiral is really bad. Because sometimes the 3 steps are not enough. Sometimes your brain is on fire and you need the fire department. Here are 3 extra tools. Tool 1, the worry timer. Give yourself permission to worry, but only for a set amount of time. Set a timer for 5 minutes. Worry as hard as you can. Imagine every worst-case scenario. Write them down if you want. When the timer goes off, you are done. The worry session is over. If your brain tries to keep worrying, say, not now. I will worry again tomorrow at 5 p.m. and actually schedule that worry session. This sounds silly, but it works because your brain needs to know that its worries will be heard. When you schedule worry time, your brain stops interrupting you at 2 a.m. It knows there is a designated time. Try it for 1 week. It changed my life. Tool 2, the best friend test. Imagine your best friend came to you with the exact same spiral. They said, my boss said, let's chat, and now I think I'm getting fired. What would you say to them? You would be kind. You would be rational. You would point out the lack of evidence. You would comfort them. Now say those same words to yourself. Out loud. Treat yourself like you would treat a friend. You deserve the same kindness. Your brain will fight this. It will say, but I really am different. I really am a failure. That is the spiral talking. Do not listen. Say the kind words anyway, even if you do not believe them. Eventually you will. Tool 3, the so what game. This is for catastrophic thinking. You imagine the worst case scenario. Then you ask, so what? Then you imagine the next worst thing. Then you ask, so what? Keep going until you realize that even the worst case scenario is survivable. Example, I am going to fail this exam. So what? Then I will have to retake the class. So what? Then I will graduate late. So what? Then I will start my career late. So what? Then I will be behind my friends. So what? Then I will feel embarrassed. So what? Then I will still be alive. I will still have options. I will still be okay. See? The worst case scenario is not death. It is discomfort. And you can handle discomfort. You have handled it before. You are still here. The so what game takes the power out of catastrophic thoughts, because it shows you that even a disaster is not a real disaster. It is just a bad day. And bad days end. Let me tell you about the time this 3-step trick saved me from a full week of spiraling. I was waiting for a medical test result, something potentially serious. The doctor said it would take 5 days. 5 days of waiting. My brain went crazy. Every hour, I imagined worse and worse outcomes. Cancer, surgery, death. I could not sleep. I could not eat. I was spiraling so hard, I almost went to the emergency room just for reassurance. Then I remembered the 3 steps. Step 1, I stopped. I said out loud, "Oh, look, my brain is doing that thing again." I did the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding. 5 things I could see, 4 things I could feel, 3 things I could hear, 2 things I could smell, 1 thing I could taste. I was no longer in the disaster movie. I was in my living room, breathing, safe. Step 2, I checked evidence. Evidence for having a serious illness. None. I had no diagnosis yet. No symptoms. Just a routine test. Evidence against having a serious illness. Most tests come back normal. Statistically, I was probably fine. The doctor was not worried. That was evidence. Step 3, I swapped a thought. Scary thought. I have a deadly disease. Realistic swap. I am waiting for information. Most likely, everything is fine. If it is not fine, I will deal with it when I know. Worrying will not change the result. It will only make me suffer twice. I chose to wait without suffering. That was hard, really hard, but the technique worked. The test came back normal. I had wasted 0 days on worry because I used a tool that is the power of CBT, not eliminating fear, but not letting fear run your life. One more thing before we wrap up. I want to talk about the difference between productive worry and unproductive worry, because not all thinking is bad. Sometimes your brain is trying to solve a real problem that is productive, that is useful. The spiral is different. The spiral is when you are thinking about a problem you cannot solve right now with information you do not have. That is unproductive. That is suffering for no reason. So ask yourself, can I do something about this right now? If yes, do it. Do not spiral. Act. If no, then worrying is useless. Use the 3 steps. Stop. Check. Swap. That is the skill. Knowing the difference between a problem you can solve and a movie your brain is making up. Most of what you spiral about is the second one. Most of your worries never happen. I read a study once. Something like 85% of what people worry about never comes true. And of the 15% that does come true, most of it turns out better than expected. So you are suffering for no reason, almost all the time. That is not a critique. That is an invitation to stop. You do not have to live like this. You can learn to stop spiraling. It takes practice, but you can do it. Here is your challenge from Falonets. After this video ends, do not scroll away. I want you to think of the last time you spiraled. Something small that your brain turned into a disaster. Now run it through the 3 steps. Stop. Check. Swap. Write it down. See how different the realistic thought looks from the scary thought. Then, the next time you feel a spiral starting, and it will start, use the 3 steps immediately. The sooner you interrupt the spiral, the easier it is to stop. Do not let it gain momentum. Catch it early, and be patient with yourself. You will forget. You will spiral again. That is fine. Just try again. Every time you use the technique, you get better at it. And over time, the spirals get shorter. They get quieter. They lose their power. That is the goal. Not to never have a scary thought. To not let the scary thought take over your life. Thank you for being here. Thank you for trusting me with your overthinking brain. If this video helped you, share it with someone who texts you, "We need to talk," and then disappears for 3 hours. They need this. And hey, if you are watching this and you are currently spiraling about something, stop. Take a breath. You are okay right now. Nothing bad is happening at this moment. You are just watching a video. That is real. The spiral is not real. Choose the real. Choose this moment. You are safe. This is Fallonit signing off. Stop the spiral. Check the facts. Swap the lie. See you in the next one.